guys. Today we have an awesome guest, Mario. Hello, Mario. Thank you for being here. If you don't know Mario is probably one of the coolest people you ever know from Camp Dunamis. He's leading the other segment, Lunch with Mario. So if you haven't checked that out, please go check that out.
Check it out.
Mario, first of all, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have this discussion because we previously talked a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. So it's just really excited to hear what you got to say. First of all, I want to kind of start off with, what do you identify with, specifically culture-wise?
Yeah, so my parents are both Mexican-American, both born here. My grandparents, 3 of my 4 grandparents were born, the other 4 grandparents were born in the same general area. So one grandparent was born in Paso, Texas. The 2 grandparents, my mom's side was born in Juarez in Mexico, and then another grandparent was born in Upland, but her family's from Guadalajara. So I have a very strong Mexican influence, but I was born in the States, and so there's that culture that in-between culture where you're not really excited about the Mexican culture because I was born not in Mexico, I was born in the States, and then there's the Western American culture where I'm too Mexican, but so kind of in this middle ground of what we call Chicano. And so, yeah.
That's so cool. You know, it's funny because in college, for one of my classes, I took Chicano Latino literature.
Okay.
And we were able to talk a lot in depth about what it means to be Chicano and read a lot of poems from different people. Do you feel that statement of I am Chicano is something that you're proud to say to people, or is it something that you keep in wraps?
I think I keep it wraps at times because it's hard to describe to people. Because when there's conversations that have come up, people say, why don't you say you're American? And I'm like, well, I try to, but I get the looks that I get aren't always like the nicest looks. And so, I think when I have the opportunity to share, I'll say, I'm Chicano on this in-between spot, trying to find where I fit in. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's a really good perspective because I feel that a lot of students, I'm pretty sure that are watching this, might feel that way. That they're in that in-between of I do identify a little bit with the Chicano, Latino, Hispanic kind of culture.
It's kind of like that middle ground where maybe your parents were born in a different country, and so you hold on to some of that culture. They come here, they hold on to that culture because what they're familiar with. But you enter a new place, a new country, maybe one that you're born into, and it's very trying to adjust to that but hold old traditions. You're gonna find this hard middle ground, and there's such beauty in it, but there also comes challenges.
Yeah. Do you mind elaborating a little bit on maybe some of those challenges that?
Yeah, I think the big challenge that just be upfront with is I'm not fluent in Spanish. Pero entiendo, I understand it.
Yeah.
I understand it pretty much fluently, but I have a hard time communicating. I'm not confident in my Spanish. And so people always assume, because of the color of my skin, that, hablo español, entiendo, I understand, you speak Spanish, I understand, but you don't speak it, you talk to me and it's just that weird middle ground where...
Yeah, that's crazy because for me, I am from Puerto Rico, but I am fluent in Spanish. So whenever people talk to me at the grocery store
which is part of the United States, let's just clarify that now. They are American citizens.
We are American citizens, by the way. Yes, thank you, Mario. But whenever I go to the grocery store or even to get my haircut, people know that, okay, this person, because of my color of my skin, he knows Spanish. Doesn't matter, they might think I'm Mexican, Dominican, whatever they may think. But they know that person speaks Spanish, and they're like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Hello, how are you doing? And I always kind of switch. I'm like, okay, I'm speaking Spanish now. Oh yeah, mucho gusto. And I've never really heard of that perspective before because I've always been surrounded of people that speak Spanish fluently. So, hearing that is
the thing about it, a lot of my family speaks Spanish fluently. My parents speak Spanish fluently. My mom's a first generation, so she had to know Spanish to communicate with her parents. A lot of my cousins speak Spanish fluently. I'm in that middle ground with my cousins where I understand it and I can communicate with them. I'll speak Spanish for the most part with my family because they don't have high expectations of me. But when I'm around other like Spanish-speaking communities and friends, I won't speak Spanish. I'll just respond back in English because there is that culture in the Latino community where if you don't speak Spanish, it's very, especially from the elders, it's very disrespectful.
Yeah, I 100% get that. I remember one of my close friends, he is from Mexico, and whenever I'm in his house, he always tells me, when you see my grandparents, say hi to them in Spanish. And I'm like, why? And he's like, out of respect. And I'm like, okay. And literally whenever I see them, which is quite often actually, whenever I see them, it's like, hola, ¿cómo está? Mucho gusto. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. So it's very interesting that you say that, because now that you say those things, I kind of click in my head, whoa, that is what he's talking about.
It's a very cultural thing.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find that being respectful to my culture, because it is part of me. It is in my DNA. It is part of who I am.
For sure.
Though there's still a lot I'm still learning in it. It's approaching it with respect.
Awesome. Well, I kind of want to continue a little bit the conversation not to deal, but to a little bit talk about your story. So I know you already shared a little bit, but would you mind sharing a little bit about your story of like what it was like growing up here in the States as a Chicano?
So I was born and raised I was born in Chino, and I was raised in Ontario. The first, I would say 10, 11 years of my life was in a very Latino community. The school I went to was predominantly Latino. The church I went to was a Spanish church, Pomona, where we had people from Mexico, Guatemala, Peru, Puerto Rico, and so we had all these nations represented. And it wasn't until I was about 12 when we left the Spanish church and we actually came to a predominantly white church. It was Crosspoint Church in Chino. And that is where, for myself, where my faith grew tremendously. It was amazing too for myself because now I'm in a culture where I have a common language. But also, there's a lot of similarities. Like, we like the same things that some of my other friends at the Spanish church didn't engage in, that didn't like some of the same stuff, some of the foods and everything. I'm in a culture that was like, I have a lot of similarities with you guys too. But at times, there were moments where my family was looked at as just the Mexican family, which was very uncomfortable at times, and there was some ignorant remarks made that I don't know, it just felt uncomfortable to say that.
For sure. And I can kind of see where you're coming from, because I didn't grow up in a church like Crosspoint, but I was a part of Crosspoint. So I kind of see where you're coming from, because the fact of having to switch from because same as you, I started in a Spanish church in Fontana. I started in that Spanish church. I kind of got my strength and my want to be in ministry from that church, but then I moved to Crosspoint as well. And it's really cool because a lot of the students and a lot of the parents and a lot of the people here are really, really cool. But sometimes it does feel a little bit uncomfortable in some of the situations and the conversations.
And I want to touch on that really quick. I don't think I wouldn't put the blame on just one place.
For sure.
I think it is a cultural thing, not just located in Chino, but I experience the same thing now in my community in Redlands. I have friends throughout all areas, from the Midwest to the South, East Coast, West Coast. This isn't just a one church location, and this is not us bashing one church. This is a common experience that many people feel no matter where they're at.
For sure. Well, Mario, it was really interesting to see that point, but I kind of want to ask you a question right now, and because and this is the question that I'm going to be asking to every single person on the show, because I think it's really important to understand this. What kind of things that people say or do from any place, any culture, any people, no, it doesn't matter, but things that people do that might not seem offensive to them, but maybe to you might seem a little bit offensive?
That's a great question. And there's a couple things. And I'm going to approach this on two different, coming from the middle ground again, like the middle space, I want to speak on both, quote unquote, both sides.
Okay.
On the Latino side, the assumption that I am fluent in Spanish, but I wouldn't say it's offense, but just the disrespect that I get for not speaking Spanish fluently is very frustrating and discouraging. So I would say that one. On the other side, I think it's this assumption that I can only speak in one area. Where, yes, I'm a person of color, yes, I'm Latino, and I can speak on the experience of Latino, but I'm also educated in other areas.
For sure.
I'm currently studying my master's at a very well-known seminary. I'm educated. I can speak on different areas, and I feel as if many times when asked to speak or present anything, it's always inclusive to race. And I'm one of the things that I don't mind sharing that experience, especially when it comes to educating communities. But there are also areas in which I can speak about and educated in. And so this small mindset, I'm only limited to one thing. So I think that's an assumption that frustrates me.
Really?
And so, I think that the assumption is that people of color only can speak on certain things, but in reality, God has equipped us to speak on numerous things. We're gifted. We can do it.
That's cool. That's a really good perspective. Awesome, Mario. So we've been able to talk about a lot of stuff, and again, I want to thank you so much for being here and doing this, because I feel that this is going to impact someone. Whoever's watching us right now, I know for a fact that this is going to impact one of you guys. So I really hope it does. But I want to ask one final question here to close this out. The whole idea of Camp Dunamis is racial reconciliation. In other words, building bridges amongst cultures, communities, people, races, colors of skin. So I want to ask you, with everything that we've talked about, how can people, everyone, no matter who we are, walks of life, color of skin, race, ethnicity, doesn't matter, how can people begin to build bridges with you, Mario?
Let's go eat.
For sure.
That honestly, there's a reason why I do lunchtime with Mario. I love food. And so I think one way that people can build bridges with me, honestly, is sitting down and having a meal. I was actually going to bring this food to eat while we talked about this, but I didn't feel like talking with food in my mouth.
For sure, yeah.
And getting grease things all over. But I, honestly, for myself, one way people can build bridges with me is invite me for a meal. Let's talk over a meal. Let's talk over food and just hear each other out. And let me hear your story. Share with me your experience. Wherever it may be, if you are a middle schooler who grew up in a predominantly Dutch white community, awesome. Let me hear your story. What are some things that you love about it? What's frustrating about you? If you are a Latino growing up in wherever it may be in Southern California, in Fontana, or wherever, lend me your eyes. Tell me, how's your experience there? If you're an African American black student who is growing up in South Central LA or in LA in general or anywhere, tell me how it is. What's some things you like about your community? What's that frustrate you? What's some changes you want to see for everybody? What changes do you want to see in your community? Because every community desires change. Every community desires change. But I love having these conversations over food. I love it. That's one of my, honestly, one of my big things in ministry is taking my students out to eat. And let's talk over life. Just life. It doesn't have to be the quote-unquote the subject of race, because that should naturally already be in it. That's race. The conversation of race is not a separate thing. it's already a natural thing into our conversation because guess what? We're different. Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, we're different.
For sure.
You know? And so we're going to have different takes and different views on certain things. And that's okay. That's beautiful. It's when our views and our takes on things oppress and hinder other people is when we got to really wrestle some things out. But for myself, building bridges with me is honestly having that meal, sharing that meal. I love Korean barbecue. I love meat barbecue in general. I love food. And so having those in-depth conversations over time like that, when you can enjoy great food and then have great conversation, dude, who gets angry with that?
For sure.
Who wants to say no to that?
For sure.
Yeah, and I think that's an overall thing too, just not just with me, with anybody. I think food is that middle ground for people to just enjoy it. We all need it. We all need to eat. We all enjoy it. We all enjoy food. And so if you look at Jesus' ministry, a lot of Jesus' ministry happens at a table over food.
Yeah, it does.
Not just Jesus' ministry, but throughout Scripture, we see God moving at the dinner table. We see it with the Passover, and we see it in the prophets. We see it when David's talking with the psalmist, and then the New Testament. We see this intimate and close connection happening around food and how much food represents. When we do communion, the body and blood, of Christ, so there's power in that. So building bridges is a good one is through food.
For sure.
To check out Lunchtime with Mario because
Yeah,
I will have some great food and some not so great food on that.
Well, for sure. Youth pastors everywhere. Your next series, Food and Ministry. There you go.
I got you.
Well, Mario, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to sit down with you. I genuinely mean that. Just to see a little bit about what it is to be you, Mario. And not a lot of people get a chance to see that, so I appreciate it.
I honestly appreciate the opportunity to come here and to just sit down and talk with my brother.
For sure.
And can I share with you guys a little bit what God is doing and how we can engage in that and kind of show you things with my eyes. And so I hope that it was helpful, hope it's useful, and I hope that God is glorified through this.
For sure. Well, Mario, once again, thank you for loaning us your eyes, and I want to invite every single one of you to keep on with your calendar of events, where we have a lot of stuff coming up, not only today, but tomorrow and the next day after that as well. So keep track of that. Keep in mind those calendars that came in your goodie bags. Again, check out Lunchtime with Mario. It's going to be a super awesome time. And also make sure to go to the description of the video to see all the other information on all the other stuff that we have. And also make sure to follow us on our social medias, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all that. Without further ado, thank you so much. Thank you so much.